Hi, my name is Angela Skibberis and I'm the kinesiologist. I'm also a Resolve Beyond Neurology practitioner and a neuro training kinesiologist as well. I'm super excited today to be speaking with a beautiful kinesiologist, a neuro training kinesiologist who's been on a real fascinating journey. Some of the areas that she's working in are particularly interesting to me, including the non-for-profit work that I just spoke to a Jenny 5 minutes ago.
That's so funny. My mum called Jenny.
Is she? Oh my God, that's so funny. Like I literally got off the phone with a Jenny before. Lauren, we're so happy to have Lauren Woodward here from WA. So she's working from WA, but not originally. So thank you for coming on today and having a chat with us about all things kinesiology, neuro training, and your journey with it. Can you introduce yourself, Lauren? Tell us a bit about how did you connect in with kinesiology? How did that all happen?
Oh, thanks first for having me on here. I got introduced. I remember the first time I heard about kinesiology, it was probably maybe like 14 years ago. And I was at a family Christmas and my auntie Polly said to me, because I've always wanted to do something. I was like, I want to do something, but I don't just want to do massage. And I remember her talking to me and it was like this moment of like, you should do kinesiology. But then I didn't think about it. And then I was on one of those life journeys. So I'd ended up back in my hometown and I was like, right, I need to study something. I don't know what it is. I told my work, which was like a means to end job, that I had started studying and I could only work 4 days, but I hadn't actually decided what I'd started studying. And I'm like, massage therapist. Sorry, everybody. But, sometimes you have to be true to yourself and allow the space for you to figure your stuff out. And then I went up to the snow, took myself on a date, and decided that by the end of that day, I would have signed up to a kinesiology training business to learn kinesiology. I'd accidentally called Jenny Beasley from the College of Neuro Training, not really intentionally, and she rang me back. And I was like, okay, yep, I'll do it. Have never had a kinesiology session, didn't really know anything about it. And I remember I was the day before I was meant to start, like the first session. I was still umming and ahhing. And then I still had no idea, hadn't Googled kinesiology, hadn't Googled neuro training, still was like just following that intuition that was leading me. And I remember Andrew Verity interviewing me and I was like, I was lying. He's like, so what do you know about kinesiology? I'm like, yeah, it's really cool. Didn't know about the muscle checking. It was really naive. And so I remember very vividly my very first experience of kinesiology was when I was studying. And I was taken back to a place of, I would think I was 2 years old. And I had a big fear of the dark. And that just brought itself up when we were practicing on the table. And I remember Andrew balancing me. And it just pivoted so much in my life. I couldn't even sleep. I'd always end up in remote places to be able to heal this pattern, but never, be able to shift through it. It was incredible. So that was my first experience and how I got into it, just following that pull and just allowing myself just to say yes, even though viscerally I was like, oh, I'm a bit, so.
That's actually a really incredible story of all the different stories of how people met kinesiology. If we think about it, sometimes I think about it like a person. It's like, when did we meet? And often people had stumbled onto it via a friend and went and had a session and got inspired, or they were doing some other type of modality and thought that it would be useful. It's like that is one of the best explanations that I've heard of someone coming to kinesiology, where you like, what an intuitive nudge to just trust. And at the end of the day, this work truly is about following the intuitive nudges and of course the muscle testing and everything else. But I think a big part of it is that we tend to be the type of person that's very sensitive to following the crumbs, so to speak. And you were just living it, which is absolutely incredible. And even
Oh my
better
God, I
that
have lived it. Oh, cool.
you've lived it, and even better that you got to, your first experiences were with, one of the greatest kinesiologists and neuro trainers, left an amazing legacy, the late Andrew Verity, who was someone
Yeah.
very dear to my heart and a big part
Yeah.
of what I do in clinic. His work, I pick up his manuals every day. And so he's a
Yeah,
great
I know.
missing.
I know. I feel like I put my hand up. I definitely got every time Andrew was like, who wants to volunteer? I was like, I'll do it, which, was amazing to his knowledge, and just so many times was blown away of how, it might be we were doing the two pointing for the hormones, the endocrine system, the glands, and then he would be able to read the map and tell the person about their family history, and they're like, that's spot on. He's like, oh, your grandfather, blah, 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 this smart, your mother, just by looking at a map. Just incredible how he could, his knowledge. I just was in complete awe of that ability and that skill. Yeah.
Absolutely. He was like a brain on legs. He was
Yeah.
truly incredible. And I think that's one of the things I enjoyed most about our training, was just sitting back in awe of the knowledge,
Yeah.
and the knowledge that he just had at his fingertips. It just seemed to roll off the tongue. Didn't matter what you asked. It could have been some really strange, never heard of toe condition, that he will have had some experience with it and know how to work with it. And so
Yeah.
he was really special man. So it's great that you got to train. So you trained with neuro training, and
Yeah.
you would have also did some work with Jenny Beasley. Who else did you do
Yeah.
some training with?
I did, ironically, when I separated from my son's dad, my kinesiologist over here, Penny Carey, and I actually went through the adrenals workshop, which was, you couldn't get more perfectly timed situation to go through and learn that when you're going through a breakup. So, I just think one of the most profound things I've found about the neuro training kinesiology is from the balances that I've had when I was learning. So, obviously, we have to go through and experience every single balance in those manuals. There's hundreds of options that we can do, but you have to do them, but you also get them done to you. And how that helped me on my journey to enable the resources to come in to my physical space when I went through a challenge in life. And I found that really, really invaluable, because I can see it in other people as well, how it opens up the subconscious to bring in that next level of support. And I really found that shone really brightly when I went through that experience, because I feel like if I hadn't have been going through that, it would have been a lot harder for me to navigate being in WA on the other side of the country from my family with a 18-month-old child.
Wow. And what inspired you to move to a completely different place? Just work or training or lots of things? Long story.
Okay, I'll summarize it really quickly. When I was in 2016, I think it was, I just couldn't live in my hometown. So I'd started to build a client base there, and then I was like, I can't be here anymore. It just didn't feel right. And I'd been waiting to meet this person to travel with, and I was like, I've just got to do it on my own. So I rented out my house, packed everything into my car, and drove across the Nullarbor. I strategically booked a flight from Perth to Bali, so I would make sure that I got across the other side, and then just kinesiology, like did neuro training along the way at different places.
Wow.
It took me about a month to get across. Went to Bali, did a permaculture course, and then just followed the universe and ended up in Margaret River.
And so that's where you are now?
I am now, but in between all that, met someone, had a baby, moved back to Victoria. I was kind of building a client base over there from here, and I was in between the two places, and then moved back over in 2018 when Finn was 7 months old.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's massive. And so I guess, well, what you've just proved to a lot of people who might be the type of people who watch these videos are also other kinesiologists and neuro trainers and resolve practitioners.
Yeah.
They're also people who are thinking about maybe having a kinesiology session, and they could be in your area, or they could feel really connected.
Yeah.
You know, you just tend to connect. Lots of kinesiologists out there, but you tend to connect with one for some reason. And they might think, oh, wow, I really connect to you. But also I think there's people who are sitting on the fence like, wow, what would I, you know, how could I fit kinesiology into my life? And is it a flexible type of work? And that just showed me you and another friend of mine who's also trained in neuro training, Aaron Farrell. He traveled around Australia and would just contact various clinics or whatnot as he was coming up to various places and say, you know what, I'm available. Do you think you'd have clients who will be interested? And he would just book out his period of, you know, he'd have days where he'd work, he was making money, and he'd pack up his massage table and all of his gear, and off he and his beautiful wife would go in their Volkswagen van to the next town. And he was literally helping people town to town, which is, I think, amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. When I was pregnant, I went to Alice Springs for a month and I worked up there. And I would, when I was on the road, I traveled with my partner, or my son's dad at the time, up the WA coast, up as far as Karajini. I don't know if I recommend traveling in a caravan for 4 months when you're pregnant. It can be, but I would do phone sessions, and then I would post on the buy, swap, sell pages, and then I would see clients along the way just to bring in, you know, and just keep it rolling. It is. And another benefit about the neuro training kinesiology is it gets rid of those beliefs that, you know, oh, you know, I can't do that. No one's going to book in, or just put yourself out there and the right person will come in. It might be one person, or you could be fully booked and do 40 people in 3 weeks. You know,
that's right.
It will flow to what you actually can hold space for at that time. And I think that's really important to remember. You know, I know lots of, you know, where I live in Dunsborugh in the southwest, there's a lot of alternative therapists over here. And if they're not feeling right, their clients will all just randomly reschedule, because it is that exchange of energies. So
absolutely,
it's understanding to trust that as a practitioner as well.
Yes, and I think, you know, I think it took me years to, you know, you could have random week here and there where there's only 1 or 2 people, but you think, oh gosh, like what's happening? You know, is it drying up? But then what would happen is a series of reasons why you were so glad you had all those days off, because something else came up that would have taken your time. And you think, just go, my goodness, I'm so glad that this kind of does exactly as you say, flows in and out of the ebbs of your life. And then if you're having, you know, if it's not that, then it could be, okay, do a session and work on, are there certain beliefs around how many clients that I can attract, or, you know, your value as a practitioner or whatever. So
Andrew used to always say, you know, balance yourself to double. So if you want to have 10 clients a week, you balance yourself to 20 people. So for people that don't really understand, that are watching this, the balancing, you know, it's like challenging your nervous system to be able to hold and sustain 20 people. And then that creates the subconscious, I guess, you know, pathway or whatever you want to refer it to say, oh yeah, hang on, we can do 20 people. It's incredible. Every time I've done it, it's worked. It's just, you know, remembering to do it. But that works for any modality. You know, if you've got own therapist that wants to increase their business, or anyone, but you know, one balance can shift so much in that space.
Absolutely. So what is it that you love about kinesiology? What had you then fall in love with it?
I think it's because I can't see how I would have navigated my life without it, because I'm a really sensitive person, so I can feel that internal conflict. So, and this happened last week, I probably had my worst breakdown I've ever had, because I could feel it so much and I knew that stuff wasn't right, but I hadn't quite integrated how to navigate through that and move through it to make the choices that I needed to make to continue the next step.
Yeah.
And so as you go, you know, it's kind of like peeling layers off an onion, but it's getting in deeper and deeper. You know, you could work on one thing and then that's okay. And then it might show again in a similar way, you know, in 2 years' time, and you can get into a deeper context of it. So it's the ability to support people to clear the brain pathways and the stress associations, the conditioning, the beliefs, the societal beliefs and pressures of, you know, and this is a big one for me personally, being, you know, a solo mum, that whole story around, you know, having a man and a woman in a house with a child, that's been the hugest thing for me to overcome, and being in a place where I'm in my own financial sovereignty.
Yeah.
And going through that separation process to make sure, and this is something I'm really passionate about and I'm still learning and working on constantly, is what is my choice based on? Is it based on fear? Is it based on finances? Is it based on, you know, resentment and anger? How do I make a choice that's true from my heart, in integrity and alignment with myself? And I think that that's so fundamental for anybody that's going through that situation, to make the best choice for your child, not necessarily for you out of an egoic response or a hurt trauma reaction response. Yeah.
So helping people, say they were going through, you know, things like that, or separations, or having to make those difficult choices in life. You see the neuro training really helping people to come out of their defense patterns, out of how, say, you know, because a lot of the work we do is quite generational. We don't even know that we respond to things in a certain way because of those patterns that have been there over time through our family members and whatnot. And so it's really helping people to sift down through that and come from a space that is their own character, their own natural character, they're choosing from a space of choosing rather than some subconscious pattern choosing for them, if that makes sense.
But also allowing for the support they need to come in and hold them in that space. So I know for me personally, I've been able to create the most amazing support network here to hold me while I navigate through those challenges. And I think that's another benefit of the kinesiology is, or the neuro training, especially with the blueprint models, is getting yourself to the space for allow that to come in. So when you do fall, and we all fall, that there's still that nourishing support or resources available for you to reach out to, even though you might perceive in that moment that there's no one else there and you're all alone.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's really cool. So tell me a little bit more about, so you've had some really interesting directions surface around working in the Indigenous kind of space, and places like Uluru and non-for-profit. So how did that unfold?
Oh, that was just another listening to your intuition. So I traveled so much during the lockdown period compared to any other person, which again, it's just really, you know, some of my friends say, well, like limitless Lauren, but it's more like, I don't know. I've been out of that place, I feel, for like 12 months, but during that time in 2021, I just kind of buddy hopped to lockdowns and was with my family back in Victoria, and someone was like, go to Uluru. And I was like, well, I've got to do 2 weeks somewhere, not in Victoria, so I can go back to WA. So I booked a flight to Uluru for my son and I, with the return flight from Alice Springs. So there's a 5-hour drive. There's at that time, there was no hire cars and there was no buses because of COVID. So I was fully in trust. My son's dad's auntie lived there, and I was like, oh, I'll reach out to her. Anyway, so Finn and I had this amazing night at the 5-star resort, and then we went out into the community. I didn't know any of this. And then Tracy was like, go and meet Clive. He's down at the warehouse. I was like, okay. So I was like driving around Woodward and met Clive and learned about Mariku arts. And then Clive's like, oh, I'm going to Alice tomorrow. I'll give you a lift. I was like, great. Thank you so much. and actually did a healing on Clive that night, which
Wow.
was amazing in itself. Yeah, there was just thunder, lightning, just so much stuff happening. And then he gave Finn and I a lift. It was the most amazing 4-hour drive. Well, let's say 4-hour drive from Uluru to Alice Springs, learned all these creation stories. He stopped in the middle of the road and I ran up a sand hill. He's like, run up there. It was part of the Seven Sisters Chukulpa. And there was no one up there. And all I heard was these Indigenous women speaking Pitjantjatjara. And I turned around and there was no one there. And I was like, whoa, this is weird. Anyway, and then he rang and offered me a job. So 6 weeks later, my son and I were living at Uluru in the community.
No
and so
way.
I was there for 5 months, and then my body started to really be impacted, and the lockdowns were starting to get a bit funny, and I was like, oh, I don't really want to get stuck here because, you know, my son's dad lives in WA. I think we should come back because I didn't want to run the risk of us getting stuck. So I just drove back and said, well, I'm going to have to work remotely. And so I've been doing that ever since. So I work remotely from WA and then fly in every 3 months.
Into Uluru.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, okay, so let's go back a step. So Uncle, was that an uncle? You're talking about an uncle or it's just a person?
Clive Scalay, he was a creative. You would call him a creative.
Okay, so
he's passed away.
Oh, wow.
But at the
so
Miracle Arts is a non-for-profit Unanu owned organisation. So I manage the cultural tourism and events for there. So there's a gallery, there's an arts department. You know, it's an incredible company.
That is so fantastic.
It's around 40 years, and it's all Unanu owned, 100% Unanu owned.
That's incredible. So does the kinesiology ever come into play with all of that?
Yeah. So I was out when I was living out there with Finn. One of the ladies, she's like, Kunga, fix me. And I did the most beautiful balance. But what was really incredible was Finn was there with one of the little chichis, like the other little kids. And Finn grabbed my bowl off the shelf and put it at the lady's head. Then they filled it up with water. Then Finn just grabbed all these essential oils and put it in. So I was doing a balance while him and the girl was sitting there like doing the sound bowl. And I'm like, what the? Yeah. And when I go out there, I always like give the ladies massages and stuff.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is absolutely fantastic. What an incredible story. And you go up there every few months.
Yeah. I meant to go every 3 months, 3 to 4 months. But I'm just at the moment trying to figure out how I can reintegrate my neurotraining kinesiology so I can do that a bit more, because I've really been focusing on that business for 2 years. So what I'm looking at doing is group balances twice a week and just slowly starting to reintegrate the ability to have clients, because what I was initially doing was trying to do everything. And, you know, it's quite impossible to do. So
that's incredible. So when you say, so moving forward, so if anyone, you're in WA, can people see you in person?
Yeah, they can see me in person, or I do online sessions as well.
Yeah.
So with the online sessions, I do them 3 ways. It might, if someone wants a Zoom call, I can do it via Zoom. I call them and do it live, or I speak to them beforehand, do the balance, and call them after. And I've even done this for people that only live half an hour away. They're quite happy for me to do the balance and just send them a voice recording of what's happened.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different ways that you can work with people.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the group sessions, anyone who's interested in that, how exactly would that work for people? What would they expect?
So basically it would run for about an hour. And so I would tune in prior to the session just to see intuitively what needs to come up. I would get everyone's names, and then I would just go through the process, and I'd do a group balance with everyone collectively in that space. And if people feel they want to share, you know, we'll do the better neurological options together as a group. And then I'll email afterwards, you know, any support that we'll show for the session going forward. because
Okay,
I think,
beautiful.
it's a lot more economical for people.
Sure.
Sometimes they really want to, I would suggest definitely having, a balanced solo, but sometimes that's not a financial option. I've been a single mum living off 18 grand for a year. I know how hard it is. So it's really important for me to be able to offer the support that I had to people when I went through that phase of my life, or just to
Absolutely.
anybody, because sometimes people just also want to connect.
Absolutely. And that's like a Zoom, like you do it on a Zoom, or is it
Yeah,
on
I
your
do it via
Facebook?
Zoom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Fantastic. So, is there anything in particular that you're inspired by, really thinking that you'd like to dive into, expand with you, apart from obviously the group sessions? Where are you thinking you'd like to go with everything, Lauren?
I think this is the thing with me, is that when I was thinking about what I wanted that led me to Uluru, I just kept saying, this is what I kept repeating in my diary. It was expansion, culture, love, light, and language, and connecting to my heart. That led me to Uluru.
Mm,
And I think I even balanced myself to those words because they kept coming in. So I think me now is just being really clear, connected, and concise about what it is that I want, but definitely it's holding space at a
mm,
larger scale, event stuff. I,
yeah.
you know, I created a thing in my backyard, which was called Sessions Under the Mulberry Tree, where musicians would come. So I would open my house up to people, and, sometimes there'd be 50 people, sometimes there'd be 10, and musicians would play. And I started doing interviews, which is what I called, like, my business is Inner Balance. So interviews.
Yeah.
So doing more of that sort of stuff, but I'm just obviously having the tourism background now, trying to congeal everything together in something that is regenerative, I can't pronounce that word, that really has depth and value to people.
That's a beautiful idea. Like
Yeah.
it's reminiscent to I've had a little bit of experience with some elders, Aboriginal elders in
Yeah.
community in Western Sydney, and that kind of reminds me of a story he would tell about dreaming stories around the fire bucket.
Yeah.
And many years ago, this man's 101. He turned 101
Wow.
this year. Yeah, and his name's Uncle Wes Mann, for those who might be interested in Googling him. He's a very, very special man. And he, many years ago, when it was actually illegal to do so, would tell dreaming stories around a fire bucket in his backyard. And he did jail time for that, actually.
Oh my God.
Amazing stuff. And so, but yeah, that then went on to become a sold out stage show where he would do
Oh,
this,
goosebumps.
yeah, yeah, he's really beautiful. So, and he's had an extraordinary life. Imagine being 101.
Yeah.
So, and one of the most beautiful human beings I think I've ever met. Just a gorgeous man. He and another dear friend and Uncle Greg Sims is someone that I connect with as well. We've had projects going on. So I think sometime we should talk about some other things that on the side apart from kinesiology that I think you'd be very interested in
Yeah,
around all
absolutely.
of that. But yeah, I think that whole inner view I absolutely love. I absolutely love that terminology. And I think that makes it really accessible for people that just coming into your yard. You've got musicians, the music helps to calm,
Yeah.
relax, uplift,
Where I
create a
met my
real vibe.
partner.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it's the best love story ever.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
was, obviously going through that journey and always wanting a deep, conscious, co-creative relationship. And then
Yeah.
having like, I wrote a beautiful poem about how the mulberry tree brought me back to life. And then, our first kiss was underneath the mulberry tree. And how that all, I met him through
Yeah.
that sort of,
It kind of
yeah.
reminds
So
me of
it's all,
it's all intertwined, the love and the
yeah, it
vibration
is.
and the frequency. I'd be interested to know what mulberry tree is about, actually. It makes me think
That's,
about, I don't know if did you ever get into Jeff Buckley?
yeah. Yes,
It
the
makes me
lilac
think about
tree.
the
Yeah.
lilac tree. It makes me think about that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm surprised I haven't Googled it. That's
I know,
interesting.
right? Everyone's out there Googling it as we speak. But yeah, I think that'll be really interesting to see what that's about. And it'd probably be when you do see it, you probably think, oh my goodness, like it's there are no mistakes, I think. Like it never, in my
Yeah.
experience, those
And I think that's,
synchronicities.
yeah, absolutely. Life's amazing and it's
Yeah.
challenging and it's
Yeah.
hard, but it's also an incredible gift. And I guess if I was to summarize how neurotraining kinesiology has helped me, it's getting me to enjoy the best places whilst being held while I'm going through the worst places. And knowing
I
that
love
even
that.
in that moment, I don't feel like I have anyone. Once I get out of it, I can see so clearly what I've been able to create. And I really think it's really kept me alive because life can be really hard. And
That's incredible.
yeah, yeah,
That's incredible. And I would agree that I tend to think at times I cannot possibly imagine where my life would be without neurotraining, without kinesiology, without, I mean, even the training itself, you're training and you're learning, but you're also doing your work at the same
yeah.
time.
I know.
Uh,
Oh, I was a
and
mess.
I often, yeah, right. Look, I'm here to tell you. And, and so we're all in this crucible and you journey along tend to journey with a bunch of people, similar people, same people over time. For me, it's nearly 20 years, and I still just dip into those mentors and trainers and people over time that have developed us and worked with us. And when we're at our worst and at our best, and that we then just become this stand for relief. I don't know if you really like just that people being able to walk out of your presence or walk out of your clinic and be able to breathe out and then feel
Yeah,
like they can breathe in and go,
yeah,
okay, what now? And then create from this completely new space that's not in the same cesspit of pain and
yeah,
suffering that we may have been drawing the paint to create our artworks with. It's like suddenly,
yeah,
whoa, I've got a whole new palette. And like you say, giving them the resources, which is a big part of neurotraining and kinesiology, is it's not that we don't have the possibilities within us as human beings. It's
oh,
just
they're
that
all
somehow
there.
they're all there. That's right.
Yeah, like we
That's
have
right.
everything we need within us. It's just that
Mm,
what's happened is there's layers, whether it's this life or past life or mum or
mm,
dad or grandpa. I remember Andrew once saying to me to say, thanks, mum, thanks, dad, thanks, grandpa Jack, and starting to realize when you come back to that moment,
mm,
it's absolute stillness, but it's about remembering. And I think as people and as the consciousness of the planet rises and, we're bringing up our stuff is just understand that the mind will tell a story, but listen to the body and the heart and nurture your mind like holding a baby. It's okay.
yeah,
Just because you experience something then doesn't mean you're going to experience it now. And then you can make it like a whole body integrated choice.
absolutely. And I think I don't know if you agree. I over the years I've tended to get to a point where I think I'm just at awe at how benevolent, not malevolent, like benevolent the body and the mind and the nervous system is. And often I think people think, oh, there's something wrong, or there's something wrong with me, or I have but all of these biological processes or all of these programs that have been set up over time have one goal, and that goal is to protect you.
Yeah.
Like the goal is not to harm
Yeah.
you. The goal is not to, have you keep getting thwarted in life. It actually doesn't understand anything apart from I just want to keep you safe. And you hear endless stories of people who've been through things or done things, or you think, wow, it's just all these different ways of people's nervous system learning. You still there? You still there, my dear?
Yeah, I just dropped out.
How bizarre was that?
It was really weird. I
That was
was
really
just on
weird.
a virtual.
Loop. That's so funny. Yeah, so just finishing what I was saying, it's just it's so beautiful how the human body and the nervous system is, its goal is just to assist us and support us and keep us safe. And then the job of the
Yeah,
neuro trainer is to come in and let the body or the nervous system or the person or the soul, whatever level that we're going into, it's okay.
yeah,
We don't need to keep doing that particular pattern anymore. It's just a big
yeah,
bag of protective tactics, really, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. It's pretty. I often want think, how do people just not do anything? You know, like it's once you open that door, it's like you're really stepping into yourself.
Mm.
Uh, and it's super amazing, powerful, and challenging. But,
Mm.
our nervous system is designed to be challenged. And I think it's recreating those beliefs. And even, over the past 10 years, coming out of a particular belief and just being in a space where you are the creator of your world and your existence. So what is it that you actually want to create? What is it you want?
Yeah.
And that can be a really challenging question. I find I've been challenged with that myself, especially in the past 2 months. Like, what is
Mm.
it that I actually want? And then being courageous and trustful enough to really listen to that. And then knowing, okay, well, I know that this is what I need to do, but I don't feel like I have the support to make these changes. What resources are available to me to help me on that next step? And I think that's what helps that movement, because people sitting in it causes that conflict, and then you start to get the symptoms and the body going, hey, something needs to change.
Yeah. And can you go over that just a little bit so people can start to get an understanding? I think people more and more understand that there is such a psychosomatic, metaphysical connection to their symptoms. And the reason why neurotraining works so beautifully is someone comes in with a symptom, and not that we don't work with the symptom
Yeah.
necessarily. We're not here
No,
there to heal the symptom. But how would you explain that how we work with someone comes in with a symptom and it's connected to something they're feeling or a trauma that they've had?
So I'll use me for an example because they're the best examples I got. So November last year, I ended up in hospital for 4 days in the cardiac ward in Alice Springs because my heart went and I became unconscious, got taken by ambulance and hooked up to a machine because my body was like, you have not been listening at all.
Wow.
So
Wow.
there's no doctor that has given a reason. My
Really?
heart rate was sitting, well, in April, it was sitting at a base. So my resting heart rate was at 120 and above per minute because my body was like, stop, you need to slow down. So when you go into the kinesiology and you're working through that, you're getting to the root cause of that issue. And this is where it can get really challenging. And I guess this has been my lesson, is knowing that the medical model is amazing, but it doesn't always have the answers. I could go doctor hopping to try figure out, but I just know intuitively what I actually need to do is to basically rebuild myself internally through acupuncture, massage, kinesiology, Reiki just to clear the energy, and the neuro training kinesiology to get to the root cause issues and then find what I need in order to support myself. So nutritionally, I need vitamin D. And that nutritional support has changed over the past 6 months. Magnesium, being really aware of electromagnetics, there is an absolute correlation of me working on my computer, because sometimes I'm on there for 8 hours a day working remotely, and what it does to my heart.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do I manage that? And this is something that I remember Andrew saying to me, and he would work with clients all around the world on, these people wanted to work these 16-hour jobs, so he would balance them to be able for them to sustain that. In my case, it's me balancing myself to have the ability to put the boundaries in place in order for me to live in integrity. I don't want to work, 10 hours a day on a computer. So how do I then take that next step, and how do I put myself first in a way that's in alignment with me? Because the cause of my issue wasn't just one thing. If I add the burnout, not exercising, the electromagnetics, the living as what I call an isolated parent. So all my family is over on the East Coast, working full time with a child, maintaining a backyard was just too much.
Yeah.
So it's like a perfect storm. And the thing that it would impact was my heart. So then digging deeper into the neurotraining kinesiology, that went back to both of my grandparents on my mum and dad's side. Both mum's dad and my dad's dad had heart problems. My mum's dad was a smoker, cadmium showed, which is like a high thing in cigarettes. And I used to smoke. The cigarettes, like I might, if I have a few drinks, I might have one. Then I grew up on a vegetable farm in East Gippsland as a kid, and one of the other things it showed was pesticides.
Wow.
So going through and balancing my body to clear those things. And then that was then impacting my body's ability to absorb vitamin E, which is important for the heart. And my body was full of like the free radicals weren't working. So there was that really big nutritional aspect, which was inherited with and there was I had cigarettes twice in the past 6 months just to see what would happen. And sure enough, it would flip my heart. And I was like, yeah, I knew it. It's not that I condone smoking. I'm not going to smoke, but I knew it wasn't my stuff. Well, the pesticides and stuff were, because that's where I grew up with. But my dad grew up, with spraying DDT on plants, So it was like combining all of that story together and going, okay, well, what's in my control? What can I change? What are my priorities? And then riding the waves. It's probably been the hardest 6 months that I've had. I've had to rebuild like cognitively.
Yeah.
And this happened yesterday when I was exercising. I was being told to do one thing, but it was like that neural pathway had just gone nuts since I collapsed in Alice. So I was then like retraining and doing lots of muscle work, switching the muscle on again, because the muscle had been switched off, which, we do in neuro training kinesiology by muscle checking, seeing so it's like I've had to do it in session, but then also physically make sure that I'm exercising to wake the muscles up, but actually slow down. I'd highly recommend Molly Mack if you're in WA. She's incredible. And I've been to her 3 times this week, and she's slowed me down to really get that muscle to integrate, but held space for me when I felt it's been really traumatic, because I can feel me trying to communicate and it not connecting. That's Move your left foot back and put your right foot out. I'm like, what? Oh my God, I can't believe I don't know how to do this. And then breathe, and then I connected again. Yeah.
It's incredible stuff. That is amazing. And a great example of that, people might come and think, oh, the kinesiology is the be and the end all. And to me, sometimes you would have seen them, people who come in and they have these incredible results with a session. Yeah. And then there are people who there is the rebuilding. So it's, yes, there is the need for acupuncture to support the body. Yes, there is a need for massage because it's different. And the kinesiology is part of this holistic approach of working with the person. Yeah. And so that's a beautiful example of, I remember
work. It's amazing as well.
I mean, gosh, I've been doing this nearly 20 years, and I don't think I ever really got how amazing the cross crawling
Yeah.
The cross crawling is, right, we get people to do it every day, and it's like cross crawl this, that, great. And for people who don't know, it's like a technique where you're crossing the midline and touching one hand to the opposite knee and vice versa. Imagine if you're marching along, and then you might add some eye directions in there, some humming of something. You might add all sorts of things into that process. I was going and having ice skating lessons, like proper ones, like not that I would ever become a professional, but I just had this thing in my mind that this is one thing I've always wanted to do, not, become like tall, or dean or something like that. And I just remember in one of the lessons that we had to, when you're going backwards, which is terrifying, can I just say, you're
Wow.
going backwards and you have
Oh,
to
you have
push.
to trust yourself so much.
Yes, well, it's actually so much. I mean, I can roller skate, I can, but ice skating is a different level, and I can go forward, but backwards, it's like every part of your neurology is going, no, 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 this is
Yeah.
not safe. And it just doesn't want to. And the fear that's in your body when you're doing some of these techniques
Yeah.
is insane. And so I think if you want to do anything to challenge your nervous system, try ice skating, because all of your stuff's up on the surface, all your fears, all your neurology and things like that's scary and that's sharp. And if you fall, you're going to really hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And so we're going backwards, and you have to do with your feet these sort of like it's like doing breaststroke with your feet, but backwards, right?
Wow.
And one leg would do it perfectly, and the other leg just wouldn't go. And I'm just thinking, I feel like that same thing that I feel like I can't talk to my leg. Like it was just this weird experience where it wasn't, I'm like, come on, leg, just do what the other leg's doing. And it wouldn't. So anyhow, I stormed off into a room that's off on the side of the ice skating rink. And here I am in my ice skates on the rubber floor, doing cross crawling. So marching along, crossing side to side. And I'm doing eye rotations around and humming happy birthday. All those things activate various things. Anyway, I did that for, I don't know, 2 minutes, went back out in the ice, bang, that foot worked. And I thought, I've been doing this, at the time it was 18 years. I thought, that is amazing. Just switched something on in the nervous system that had my leg and my brain communicating again. And so it just goes to show that it doesn't have to be like a big major problem. Why was it off? Why was it switched off? Who knows? But it was a real, for someone who's feels like a veteran and been in this for a really long time, I felt like I got a big lesson that day around how powerful this work is. It's just amazing. It's crazy. So how do people reach out to you, Lauren? How do they find you? How do they contact you? Where are you in the virtual world?
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So Inner Balance NTK. I think that's what it is on Instagram. Yeah. So Inner Balance Neuro Training Kinesiology. And I'm based in Dunsborugh in the southwest. So I really am blessed with my friends. My girlfriend, she owns Premalaya, which is the most incredible place in Yallingup, beautiful yoga studio. One of my other best friends, Lana, she's a kinesiologist. Holly, she does spinal flow. So lucky and grateful to have such, there's so many of us here, and we're all friends. So we're all kind of on a journey together. And I think also we all don't have family here.
Wow.
We really have to it's incredible. And I think that is, again, when I think about the neuro training kinesiology going back 10 years, it's like it's just held me,
what a beautiful space.
Inspiring women, Nicola, just really, and Lise, just how these people have been able to come into my life. And I don't know, if you want a holiday, anyone, definitely come to the southwest, and I could make you the most delicious, scrumptious, self-caring, expansive human experience for you. I guess that's something that I would love to do as well, because I have all these incredible, amazing friends, but they also offer such incredible things, whether they're conscious cooking or, they're nutritionists.
Wow. that's making me want to go there like right
Yeah,
now.
well, let's plan something. Oh,
I know, like some type of retreat or something.
yeah,
That sounds
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's just been a real, you feel like your energy feels like coming home. And
Oh,
it's
that's
just
so
such a,
much.
it's a really beautiful, soft, very warm energy that's very welcoming. And it's just been
Yeah,
such a pleasure. For those of you who are wondering, this is the first time we've met, and a lot of the people I'm interviewing and chatting with is the first time we've met. So it's just wonderful to spend time with such beautiful practitioners. We have so much in common in Andrew and neuro training and the
yeah,
love of what we do.
yeah.
And I look forward to continuing a connection and hopefully getting to know some of these amazing ladies that you've got in your back pocket.
I know, they're so cool.
All
My dad,
right.
it's funny. My dad was like, sometimes I'm like, I really want to move back to Victoria. And I will at some point. I will. I know that's, but dad's like, you'll never find anyone like your friends over there. He's like, I don't know anyone that's got friends like you've got, like, you know. And my parents, even though I know they'd love me to be back there, they've always been so
Yeah,
honest about what is action. And I think this is such a key thing when you're a parent. And the conditioning and what can happen when a parent influences a child based on what they want,
yeah,
um, that they've never once said move home because that's what they want. you
yeah.
know
That's
um,
beautiful.
it is really beautiful, and it yeah,
You feel freed up to
yeah,
just explore and live life and feel safe to explore and that they're always there, not like, oh,
yeah,
if you don't come back, I'm going to feel upset and all
yeah.
that
There's no
kind of stuff.
manipulation like that, which I
Yeah,
think is
that's
important.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
But
Well,
yeah,
thank you so much for coming on today. It's been an incredible, incredible privilege to chat with you. I look forward to learning more about what you're up to and
yeah.
connecting with you online and outside. But again, thank you. For those who really want to connect up with Lauren, please do.
Yes, please reach
Um,
out. I'd love that.
yeah, reach out if you're in WA. Please connect up with her. She's got some amazing people you can connect in with if you're looking for anything health, wellness, massage. Because you're also a massage therapist, Reiki practitioner.
Yeah, guided
Was it something?
guided meditation,
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
can channel. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm good at connecting dots too.
Yeah. So
To be,
Lauren's your girl. Even if you're not in WA, connect up
yeah.
online.
Oh,
You
definitely.
can do so much online these days. It's so
Yeah.
great. That's so great. But thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. And this video, as soon as I know you've got that afternoon sun, it's dark here now. We're like going into the evening, but this will be available. I'll upload this soon and you'll be able to share it around if you wish.
Yeah.
And just thank you everyone for watching. Subscribe, jump on. We're going to be having lots of wonderful people to talk to, and hopefully Lauren will even maybe come on again and we'll talk about
Yes.
something else. That will be fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, jump on, subscribe, follow the journey. And if you're a kinesiologist, neuro trainer, result practitioner, or any other type of practitioner and you'd love to chat about what you're up to in the world with your therapeutic applications, we'd love to chat with you. So thank you so much everyone for being here today. I'm about to say over and out.